Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Frontier, staring out at the massive alien space station floating before them. The station was unlike anything humanity had ever built. It looked like a giant metal flower with 12 petals, each one glowing with different colored lights. Some petals pulsed with blue energy, others with green or red. The whole thing was easily 10 times larger than any human structure in space. "Captain, we're receiving a welcome transmission," said Lieutenant Sarah Martinez from her position at the communication station. She was young, maybe 25, with dark hair pulled back in a tight bun. Her hands shook slightly as she worked the controls. Jake nodded and straightened his uniform. This was it. First contact between humanity and the galaxy's other intelligent species. Everything they did in the next few hours would shape the future of Earth and all its people. "Put it on screen," he ordered. The main display flickered, then showed a creature that made several bridge crew members gasp. It had blue skin that seemed to shimmer like water, large black eyes that took up most of its face, and what looked like small tentacles where a human would have hair. When it spoke, its voice was translated by their computers into perfect English. "Greetings, creatures of Earth. I am Ambassador Kethvar of the Galactic Council. You are invited to dock at Port 7. Please bring no more than 5 representatives." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in silence. Jake looked around at his crew. They all seemed nervous but excited. This was the moment they had trained for their entire careers. "Ambassador Rodriguez, are you ready?" Jake asked. Lisa Rodriguez stepped forward. She was a small woman in her 40s with graying hair and kind eyes. She had been Earth's top diplomat for over a decade, but nothing had prepared her for this. "As ready as anyone can be for making first contact with aliens," she said with a weak smile. Dr. Kevin Phillips joined them near the captain's chair. He was a tall, thin man who had spent his life studying the possibility of alien life. Now he was actually going to meet some. "Remember, we know almost nothing about their cultures. We need to be very careful not to offend anyone." Colonel Amy Tucker, their military advisor, nodded grimly. She was a tough-looking woman with short blonde hair and scars on her hands from years of combat training. "I still think we should have brought more ships. One vessel to represent all of humanity seems foolish." "The Council specifically requested that we come alone," Jake reminded her. "We need to show them we can follow their wishes if we want to. Build trust." An hour later, Jake found himself walking through corridors that seemed designed for beings much different from humans. The walls curved in odd ways, and the lighting was strange. Some areas were very bright, others were dim. The air smelled like flowers mixed with something metallic. Their alien guide, Ambassador Kethvar, moved ahead of them with a gliding motion that was both graceful and unsettling. "The council chamber is just ahead. Please remember that you are meeting representatives of 12 different species. Some may seem strange to you, but all are equally important members of our galactic community." They entered a vast circular room with a domed ceiling that showed stars and planets moving in slow patterns. 12 large chairs were arranged in a circle, each one different in size and shape. Some were clearly built for creatures much larger than humans, others for beings that were smaller or had different body types. As they walked to the center of the room, Jake tried not to stare at the aliens seated around them. One looked like a giant insect, with wings that sparkled like jewels. Another seemed to be made of living crystal that changed colors as it moved. A third was so tall and thin it looked like a walking tree branch, but it was the being in the largest chair that drew Jake's attention. It was humanoid, but much bigger than any human, with golden skin and eyes that glowed with their own light. When it spoke, its voice boomed through the chamber. "I am Prime Minister Vexthul of the Zephyrian Empire. We welcome the species from the planet you call Earth to our council chamber." Ambassador Rodriguez stepped forward and bowed slightly. "Thank you for this honor. I am Lisa Rodriguez, representing the United Earth government. We come in peace, hoping to build friendship between our peoples." Several of the aliens made sounds that might have been approval. Others remained silent. Prime Minister Vexthul raised one large hand. "We are pleased by your peaceful intentions. The galaxy has room for species that understand the value of cooperation." He gestured to another alien, who stood and approached with a glowing tablet in its hands. "We have prepared a standard treaty of non-aggression. This document will establish formal relations between Earth and the Galactic Council." Dr. Phillips whispered urgently in Ambassador Rodriguez's ear. "Lisa, ask for time to review it. We can't sign anything without understanding what it means." Rodriguez nodded and accepted the tablet. The text was in English, but it was full of complex legal language that was hard to understand quickly. As she read, her face grew pale. "This is very generous," she said carefully, "but such an important document deserves proper consideration. I would like to take time to review these terms with my government before signing." The room fell silent. The silence stretched on for long, uncomfortable seconds. Jake noticed that several aliens were looking at each other with what seemed like surprise or concern. Prime Minister Vexthol's glowing eyes dimmed slightly. "You refuse to sign?" "Not refuse," Rodriguez said quickly. "I simply need time to make sure I understand everything properly. This is too important to rush." The large alien stood up slowly. His golden skin began to glow brighter, and when he spoke, his voice was cold and angry. "In 3,000 years of galactic diplomacy, no species has ever requested time to think about a peace treaty. Such hesitation can only mean one thing: you do not truly want peace." "That's not true at all," Rodriguez protested. "We absolutely want peaceful relations. We just want to be sure we understand our commitments." But Vexthol was already turning away. "The Zephyrian Empire does not negotiate with warmongers who disguise their hostility behind false politeness. This meeting is ended." He strode toward the exit, his heavy footsteps echoing through the chamber. One by one, other aliens began to follow him. The insect-like being buzzed angrily as it flew away. The crystal creature's colors shifted to deep red before it left. Soon only 4 of the 12 council members remained in their seats. One of them, a small furry creature with large ears, spoke in a sad voice. "I am sorry, humans. Prime Minister Vexthul is very influential. If he says you are enemies of peace, others will believe him." Jake stepped forward. "Can't you explain to them that we made an honest mistake? We didn't mean to offend anyone." The furry alien shook its head. "Zephyrian culture sees any delay in accepting a peace offer as an act of war. They believe that creatures who truly want peace will accept it immediately, without question. To them, your hesitation proves you were planning to attack them all along." Colonel Tucker moved to Jake's side. "What does that mean for Earth?" Another remaining alien, this one looking like a floating jellyfish, answered with a voice full of sorrow. "It means the Galactic Council will declare you an enemy species. Military fleets from dozens of worlds will be ordered to destroy your planet before you can threaten the galaxy." The words hit the human delegation like a physical blow. Ambassador Rodriguez sank into a nearby chair, her face white with shock. "But we never threatened anyone. We came here in peace." "It does not matter now," the furry alien said. "By tomorrow, every species in the galaxy will receive the same message. Congratulations, you just declared war on the galaxy's most lethal species. Oh, they will believe Earth plans to conquer them all." Dr. Phillips grabbed Jake's arm. "We need to get back to Earth immediately. Our people need to know what's coming." As they hurried back to their ship, Jake's mind raced with the implications. Humanity had made first contact with the galaxy, and within hours they had accidentally declared war on thousands of alien civilizations. Earth had no idea that massive fleets were already being assembled to destroy them. The worst part was that the aliens thought they were dealing with a dangerous, warlike species. They had no idea they were about to attack the most lethally adaptive predators the galaxy had ever seen. Humanity had been trying to make friends, but if the galaxy wanted a war, they were about to learn why Earth species had climbed to the top of their planet's food chain. The UES frontier jumped to faster-than-light speed, racing home with news that would change everything. Behind them, the galaxy prepared for what they thought would be a simple extermination mission. They were about to discover their terrible mistake. Admiral Pete Jackson sat in his office deep inside the Space Defense Command Center in Colorado. The room was simple and clean, with pictures of Earth from space on the walls. He was a man in his 50s with gray hair and tired eyes. Right now, Those eyes were staring at reports that made his stomach feel sick. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Martinez knocked on his door and entered without waiting for permission. She was carrying a stack of papers and her face was pale with worry. "Sir, we have the latest intelligence from our deep space monitoring stations. It's worse than we thought." Pete looked up from his desk. "How much worse?" Sarah spread several star charts across his desk. Red marks covered most of the visible star systems. "At least 60 different alien fleets are moving toward Earth." The computer estimates were facing over 10,000 warships. Pete stared at the charts. Each red mark represented hundreds or thousands of alien soldiers coming to kill every human alive. "How long do we have?" "The fastest fleets will reach our outer system in about 2 weeks. The main attack force will arrive in 4 to 6 weeks. Pete rubbed his forehead with both hands. "And they're all coming because we asked for time to read a treaty?" "Yes, sir. Our cultural experts think we accidentally insulted the most powerful species in the galaxy. They convinced everyone else that we're dangerous warmongers. Meanwhile, thousands of light years away, the galaxy was preparing for what they believed would be an easy victory. On the crystalline world of Shardhai, the collective's war mind known as Shard Prime was calculating the coming battle. The creature was made of living crystal that sparkled with inner light. It had no body like humans would understand, just a constantly shifting mass of geometric shapes that thought with perfect mathematical precision. "Analysis complete," Shard Prime announced to the assembled collective. "The human species shows primitive technology and limited military capability. Probability of successful extermination, 99.7%. Time required, 12 standard cycles." The other crystal beings hummed in harmony, their colors shifting to pleased, blue-green patterns. The humans would be destroyed so quickly that the galaxy would barely notice the war had happened. On the insect world of Zizak, Hive Queen Ziath was addressing her military commanders. She was enormous, the size of a small building, with wings that buzzed constantly and compound eyes that could see in all directions at once. Around her, thousands of smaller insect warriors clicked their claws and antennae in anticipation. "The soft-skinned bipeds of Earth dare to threaten our peaceful galaxy," she buzzed in a voice like angry bees. "They have only one planet. While we have 1,000 hive worlds, my children will devour them in a single swarm attack." The warrior insects clicked their approval. They had fought many battles against other species, and these humans sounded like the weakest enemies they had ever faced. Back on Earth, Dr. Angela Foster was working late in her laboratory at the Global Xenopsychology Institute. She was a thin woman with wild curly hair who had spent her career studying how different intelligent species might think and behave. Now her research had become desperately important. Her assistant, Captain Billy Thompson, entered the lab carrying a cup of coffee and looking exhausted. Billy was a young military officer who had been assigned to help coordinate intelligence gathering. "Doctor, we've intercepted more alien communications. You need to hear this." Angela looked up from her computer screen, which was covered with alien language patterns and behavioral analysis charts. "What did you find?" Billy activated a recording device. Strange voices filled the room, speaking in languages that sounded like music, buzzing and grinding stone. The computer translated their words into English. "The human pest will be eliminated within 1 standard cycle," said a voice like breaking glass. "Their primitive weapons cannot harm our reality-warping vessels." Another voice, deep and rumbling like an earthquake, added, "My warpack grows restless for the hunt. These humans will provide sport for perhaps 1 day before they are all dead." Third voice, high and singing, laughed like wind chimes. "The betting pools on Altair Prime give odds of 1,000,000 to 1 against human survival. I have wagered heavily on their extinction." Angela felt cold fear spread through her chest. "Billy, they're not taking us seriously at all. They think this will be like hunting animals. Is that good or bad for us?" Angela was quiet for a long moment, thinking. "I'm not sure. They clearly don't understand what kind of species we are. The question is whether that helps us or makes things worse." On the war world of Korvac, General Thrackmore was inspecting his battle fleet. He was a massive creature with gray skin like stone and tusks that jutted from his lower jaw. His people were warriors who had conquered dozens of star systems through strength and honor. "Status report," he barked to his second-in-command, a smaller but equally fierce warrior named Captain Groktal. "All ships ready for battle, General. 200 dreadnoughts, 500 cruisers and 1,000 escort vessels. The humans will face the might of the Corvan Empire." Thrackmore nodded with satisfaction. "Good. These humans have shown disrespect to the Council. We will teach them that strength is the only truth in the galaxy." "General, the intelligence reports say they have only primitive projectile weapons and chemical rockets. Should we bring the full fleet?" Thrackmore's tusks gleamed as he smiled. "We bring everything. When we destroy this Earth, every species in the galaxy will remember what happens to those who threaten the peace." Back on Earth, President Helen Carter was meeting with the Global Defense Council in an underground bunker beneath Washington, D.C. The room was filled with military officers, scientists, and government officials from every major nation on Earth. General Rick Palmer, a tough old soldier with scars on his face from the border wars, was showing satellite images of military preparations around the world. "Madam President, we're mobilizing every military unit on the planet. All nuclear weapons are being prepared for launch. Every ship, plane, and tank is being readied for combat." Secretary of State Danny Wright, a calm man who preferred talking to fighting, shook his head. "This is insane. We need to try diplomatic contact again. There has to be a way to explain the misunderstanding." "Danny, they're not interested in talking," General Palmer replied. 60 alien fleets are heading our way. They've already decided to kill us all." President Carter looked around the room at the worried faces of Earth's leaders. "What are our chances if we fight?" Dr. Patricia Clark, Earth's leading military strategist, cleared her throat. "Honestly, Madam President, our chances look very bad. We're facing technology that's hundreds or thousands of years ahead of ours. We have nuclear weapons, but they have energy shields and weapons that can destroy planets." "So we're doomed?" asked the President. Dr. Clark hesitated. "Maybe. But there's something strange about the alien communications we've intercepted. They keep talking about honor and proper warfare and civilized combat. It sounds like they fight wars very differently than we do." General Palmer leaned forward. "What do you mean?" "Well, they seem to think war is like a game with rules. They talk about fair battles and honorable defeats. They expect us to fight the same way they do." "And we won't?" the President asked. "Doctor." Clark's smile was cold and sharp. "Madam President, humans didn't become the dominant species on Earth by fighting fair. We became dominant by doing whatever it takes to survive." Meanwhile, in deep space, the alien fleets continued their journey toward Earth. The commanders were confident and relaxed. Many were already planning victory celebrations. Some were discussing how to divide up Earth's resources after the humans were extinct. None of them understood that they weren't traveling to destroy a primitive civilization. They were traveling to wake up a species of predators that had spent millions of years learning how to kill anything that threatened them. The galaxy was about to learn the difference between creatures that evolved to cooperate and creatures that evolved to dominate. They thought they were hunting sheep, but they were actually approaching a planet full of wolves. Admiral Jackson looked out his office window at the stars and felt a strange calm settle over him. The aliens were coming to destroy humanity, but they had made one critical mistake. They had given humans time to prepare, and humans were very, very good at preparing for war. The galaxy was about to discover what Earth's most dangerous species could do when their survival was threatened. It would be a lesson they would never forget, assuming any of them lived to remember it. Captain Frank Collins stood on the command deck of Cerberus Station, watching the alien ships approach through the darkness of space. The defense platform was humanity's first line of defense, positioned at the edge of the solar system like a metal fortress floating among the stars. Frank was a career military man with 20 years of combat experience, but he had never faced anything like this. Through the observation windows, he could see lights moving in the distance. Dozens of alien ships, each one larger than any human vessel ever built. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the lead alien vessel," reported Lieutenant Jenny Walsh from her communication station. She was young and nervous, but her voice remained steady. "Put it through," Frank ordered. The main screen flickered, showing the bridge of the alien ship. A creature with blue skin and tentacles for hair appeared. It looked exactly like the ambassador they had met weeks ago, but this one wore what looked like military armor. "Attention, primitive humans. I am Admiral Kethron of the Zephyrian fleet. You will surrender immediately or face complete destruction. You have one of your minutes to comply." Frank looked around his bridge at his crew. They were all looking at him, waiting for orders. He thought about his wife and children back on Earth and millions of other families depending on him to protect them. "Admiral Kethron," Frank said calmly. "I'm Captain Frank Collins of the Earth Defense Force. We have no intention of surrendering. If you want our system, you'll have to fight for it." The alien admiral's black eyes grew wide with surprise. "You dare refuse? Your species will be extinct within the day." "Maybe," Frank replied, "but we'll make you work for it." The transmission ended. Frank turned to his weapons officer, Commander Lisa Hayes. She was a tough woman who had served on military ships for 15 years. "Lisa, are our railguns ready?" "All weapon systems armed and ready, sir. We have a clear shot at their lead ships." Frank nodded. "Target their command vessel. Fire when ready." The Cerberus station shook as its massive railgun fired. The weapon launched a metal projectile at incredible speed, moving so fast it was invisible to the naked eye. The alien command ship's shields flared with bright energy as the projectile hit, but the shields failed after only a few seconds. The metal slug punched through the alien hull like it was made of paper. The alien ship exploded in a ball of fire and debris. Admiral Kethron's fleet immediately opened fire on the human station. Energy beams and plasma bolts filled space with deadly light. But Frank had expected this. Cerberus Station was built like a fortress, with thick armor and powerful shields of its own. "Return fire, all weapons," Frank ordered. The battle was joined. Human railguns fired again and again, sending deadly projectiles into the alien fleet. The aliens had never faced kinetic weapons like these before. Their energy shields were designed to stop lasers and plasma, but they couldn't handle solid metal moving at tremendous speed. 3 more alien ships exploded under the railgun barrage. The aliens began to retreat, pulling back beyond the range of human weapons. On his flagship, Admiral Kethron stared at his damage reports in shock. 4 ships destroyed in the first few minutes of battle. This was not supposed to happen. "Status report," he demanded from his tactical officer. "Sir, the humans are using primitive kinetic weapons, but they're much more powerful than our intelligence predicted. Their projectiles are moving at nearly 10% of light speed." Kethron felt fear creep into his heart. How is that possible? They're supposed to be a primitive species. Meanwhile, deeper in the solar system, Admiral Rachel Stone was preparing the Mars Defense Fleet for battle. She stood on the bridge of the battleship UES Olympia, watching sensor displays that showed dozens of alien fleets approaching from different directions. Rachel was a small woman with red hair and green eyes, but her voice carried the authority of someone who had commanded ships in 3 different wars. Around Mars, her fleet of 60 human warships waited in formation. "Ma'am, we're detecting Corvan battle groups approaching from Sector 7, reported her sensor operator, Lieutenant Carl Baker. Rachel studied the tactical display. The Corvan ships were massive, each one 3 times the size of a human battleship. But size wasn't everything in space combat. "All ships, this is Admiral Stone. Remember your training. Hit fast, hit hard, and don't give them time to react. We may be outnumbered, but we're not outfought." The Corvan fleet came out of faster than light, travel in perfect formation, expecting to face desperate human defenders. Instead, they found Rachel's ships already moving at high speed, approaching from multiple directions at once. General Thrackmore watched from his command ship as the tiny human vessels raced toward his mighty fleet. He laughed, a sound like grinding. "Stone, look at them charging us like angry insects. Their bravery is admirable, but it will not save them." But his laughter died when the human ships opened fire. Instead of the slow, predictable energy weapons he expected, the humans used missiles that moved unpredictably, changing direction and speed as they flew. Worse, the human ships didn't stay in formation like civilized warriors. They scattered in all directions, making it impossible to target them effectively. "Sir, they're not fighting like any species we've encountered before," his tactical officer reported. "They're using what our computers call chaos tactics. They seem to have no battle plan at all." Thrackmore watched in growing alarm as human ships darted between his massive vessels like angry hornets. They fired missiles and railgun rounds, then immediately changed course to avoid return fire. Several of his ships were already taking damage. "This is not honorable combat," he growled. "They fight like wild animals." On the UES Olympia, Admiral Stone smiled grimly as she watched her tactics working. Human military doctrine was based on one simple idea: win by any means necessary. While the aliens fought in neat formations with predictable patterns, humans fought like their ancestors had millions of years ago when they hunted dangerous prey on the African plains. All ships, continue random attack patterns. Don't let them predict your movements. Commander Tony Roberts, take your squadron around their left flank, hit their command ships. Commander Roberts acknowledged the order and led his 6 destroyers in a high-speed attack run. His ships moved in a pattern that seemed random, but was actually carefully coordinated. The aliens couldn't predict where the humans would be next, making it almost impossible to target them effectively. Back on Earth, Dr. Elena Murphy was monitoring the battles from the Global Defense Center. She was a military psychologist who had spent years studying human behavior in combat situations. What she was seeing confirmed her theories about why humans were different from other species. "General Palmer, are you seeing this?" she asked, pointing at her computer screens showing battle data. General Palmer looked over her shoulder at the displays. "What am I looking at?" "Combat efficiency ratings. Look at how our people are performing under extreme stress. Most species show decreased performance when facing overwhelming odds, but humans actually get better." The data showed that human ships were fighting more effectively as the battles continued, not less. Crew performance was improving under pressure. Reaction times were getting faster and tactical decisions were becoming more aggressive. "It's like they're getting angry," Dr. Murphy explained. "The more desperate the situation becomes, the harder they fight. This is completely backwards from every other known species." General Palmer understood immediately. "Because we evolved as predators. When a lion is cornered, it doesn't give up. It fights harder." The battles raged throughout the solar system. At the asteroid belt, Colonel Tony Roberts had turned the mining stations into weapons platforms. When crystalline collective ships approached, expecting to face industrial facilities, they instead found themselves under attack from hidden railgun batteries built into the asteroids themselves. The crystal beings had never encountered anything like guerrilla warfare. Their perfect mathematical minds couldn't process the concept of camouflaged weapons or surprise attacks. They flew their ships in predictable patterns, making them easy targets for the human gunners hiding in the rocks. "Tactical analysis impossible," Shard Prime reported to the collective fleet. "Human behavior patterns do not match any known military doctrine. They appear to be fighting without any logical strategy." But there was a strategy. It was just a strategy based on millions of years of evolution as hunters and survivors. Humans didn't fight to look good or follow rules. They fought to win, and they used every advantage they could find. As news of the battles spread through the alien fleets, something unprecedented happened. For the first time in galactic history, several alien commanders began to retreat without orders. The Luminar energy beings, who had expected an easy victory, withdrew from the outer system after losing half their ships to human weapons they couldn't understand. The Gentari, a peaceful species that had been forced to join the attack, sent a secret message to Earth requesting a ceasefire. They had realized that humans weren't the monsters they had been told about. By the end of the first day of fighting, the galaxy was beginning to understand its mistake. The species they had dismissed as primitive had destroyed over 200 alien ships, while losing only 37 of their own. News of humanity's fierce resistance spread across the galaxy like wildfire. On the council world of Nexus Prime, emergency meetings were being held in chambers that hadn't seen such panic in over 1,000 years. Prime Minister Vex Thol stood before a gathering of the galaxy's most powerful leaders. His golden skin was dim with worry, and his glowing eyes had lost their usual brightness. Around him, Representatives from dozens of species argued in voices that ranged from musical chimes to grinding stone. The humans have destroyed over 400 of our ships, Vexthul announced, his voice echoing through the vast chamber. This is unacceptable. They were supposed to be eliminated within days. A creature that looked like a floating jellyfish pulsed with angry red colors. My fleets report that the humans fight without honor. They use surprise attacks and refuse to engage in proper battle formations. Worse, added an insect-like being with wings that buzzed frantically. They seem to get stronger the more desperate their situation becomes. This defies all known military logic. Vexthul raised his hand for silence. It matters not how they fight. What matters is that they must be destroyed completely. I am issuing a total extermination mandate. All species are authorized to use planet-killing weapons against Earth. The chamber fell silent. A total extermination mandate had not been issued in over 2,000 years. It meant that the galaxy's most terrible weapons would be unleashed against humanity. Meanwhile, in Earth's orbital shipyards, Admiral Greg Patterson was preparing humanity's response. He stood in the hangar bay of the UES Retribution, humanity's first faster-than-light warship. The ship was smaller than most alien vessels, but it was built with one purpose in mind: to strike fast and hard at enemy targets. Greg was a tall man, with gray hair and cold blue eyes. He had commanded submarines in the Atlantic Wars and knew the value of surprise attacks. Now he was taking that same philosophy into space. "Captain Thompson, is the Vengeance ready for departure?" he asked. Captain Nancy Thompson nodded from across the hangar. She was a former fighter pilot who had volunteered for the most dangerous mission of the war. "All systems green, Admiral. My crew is ready to show these aliens what human determination looks like." Behind her stood Commander Scott Miller, captain of the UES Defiance. He was young for a ship commander, only 32, but he had earned his position through brilliant tactical thinking during the Mars battles. "Sir, what are our target priorities?" Scott asked. Admiral Patterson activated a holographic display showing star charts of nearby alien territories. Red markers indicated enemy supply bases, manufacturing worlds, and command centers. "Gentlemen, we're not going to sit here and wait for them to bring planet killers to our doorstep. We're taking this fight to them. While they focus on our home system, we're going to hit them where they don't expect it." This was the beginning of what military historians would later call the Saul Gambit. Instead of purely defending Earth, humanity went on the offensive. Human ships began appearing deep in alien territory, striking at targets the aliens thought were completely safe. Captain Ben Rodriguez led the first stealth mission, taking his modified Corvette UES Shadow into Zephyrian space. Ben was a former Special Forces operative who understood that the best defense was often a good offense. His target was a massive supply depot orbiting the industrial world of Zephyr 7. The depot contained enough weapons and ammunition to supply 100 alien fleets. More importantly, its destruction would send a message that nowhere in alien space was truly safe from human retaliation. Ben's ship was equipped with experimental stealth technology that made it nearly invisible to alien sensors. He approached the depot during the planet's night cycle when security would be most relaxed. "All right, people," he whispered to his crew over the ship's communication system. "Remember, we're not here to fight fair. We're here to hurt them where it counts." The UES Shadow released a spread of nuclear missiles at point-blank range, then immediately jumped back into faster-than-light travel before the aliens could respond. Behind them, the supply depot erupted in a series of explosions that could be seen from the planet's surface. Similar attacks were happening across alien space. Major Julie Adams coordinated Special Forces teams that infiltrated alien worlds using captured ships. These teams didn't target military installations. Instead, they went after power plants, communication networks, and industrial facilities. Julie was a combat engineer who had learned her trade in the urban wars of the 2040s. She understood that modern civilization was fragile, dependent on complex systems that could be easily disrupted. "The aliens think war is about big space battles between fleets," she explained to her team leaders during a briefing. "They don't understand that wars are won by destroying the enemy's ability to fight, not by fighting honorable duels." Her teams planted explosives in alien manufacturing centers, hacked their communication networks, and sabotaged their supply lines. Within weeks, entire alien sectors were experiencing power outages, food shortages, and communication breakdowns. The aliens had never experienced this kind of warfare. For thousands of years, galactic conflicts had been settled by formal fleet, battles where the losing side surrendered honorably. The idea of targeting civilian infrastructure was completely foreign to them. On the water world of Aquatica, the local government received a message from human infiltrators. Your orbital defense platforms will be destroyed in exactly 6 hours. Evacuate all personnel or they will die with their weapons. The aquatic aliens thought this was some kind of mistake. Civilized species didn't announce their attacks in advance, but exactly 6 hours later, human commandos emerged from the ocean depths and destroyed the platforms with explosive charges. The psychological impact was devastating. If humans could strike anywhere at any time, then nowhere was safe. Alien civilians began demanding that their governments end the war before human raiders reached their home worlds. Colonel Derek Brooks was leading what became known as the Ghost Protocol operations. Derek was a former intelligence officer who specialized in psychological warfare. His teams used captured alien ships to approach enemy facilities, then disappeared after completing their missions. The key is unpredictability, Derek explained to Admiral Patterson during a secure communication. They can't defend against attacks they can't predict. We hit supply convoys one day, communication relays the next, then manufacturing centers the day after that. The Ghost Protocol was working better than anyone had hoped. Alien fleets were being forced to divert ships from the attack on Earth to protect their own territories. Supply lines were breaking down, and morale was collapsing as alien soldiers realized their own families might be in danger. But the turning point came at the Tau Ceti colony. The system had been settled by humans 20 years earlier, and now it housed nearly 2 million colonists. When 6 alien fleets approached the EA system, everyone expected it to fall quickly. Governor Carl Walker had other plans. Carl was a former Marine who had fought in 3 different wars before retiring to colonial administration. When the aliens demanded surrender, his response was simple: come and take it. Carl had spent months turning the entire Tau Ceti system into a trap. Asteroid fields had been mined with nuclear explosives. The space around the colony world was filled with hidden weapons platforms. Even the planet's surface had been prepared for guerrilla warfare. When the alien fleets entered the system, they found what looked like a lightly defended human colony. The colonists appeared to be evacuating in panic, loading refugee ships with their belongings and fleeing toward deep space. Admiral Thrackmore, leading the attack fleet, was pleased. At last, humans who understand when they are beaten. We will destroy their ships as they flee, then claim this world for the Corvan Empire. But the fleeing refugee ships were actually disguised warships. When the alien fleet moved into position to attack them, Governor Walker sprung his trap. Nuclear mines exploded throughout the asteroid field, creating deadly clouds of radioactive debris. Hidden weapons platforms emerged from behind moons and began firing on the alien ships. The refugee ships dropped their disguises and revealed themselves as heavily armed human warships. But the real surprise came from the planet itself. Carl had convinced the colonists to build massive railgun batteries into the planet's mountains. These weapons were too large to mount on ships, but they could fire projectiles with incredible accuracy across interplanetary distances. The alien fleets found themselves caught in a crossfire they couldn't escape. Projectiles moving at tremendous speed tore through their formations. Nuclear explosions lit up space like deadly fireworks. Hidden human ships appeared from every direction, firing missiles and energy weapons. Admiral Thrackmore watched in horror as his mighty fleet was systematically destroyed. This wasn't a battle, it was a massacre. The humans had turned the entire star system into a weapon. All ships, retreat immediately, he ordered. But it was too late. Only 3 ships from his entire fleet managed to escape Tau Ceti alive. When news of the Tau Ceti victory reached Earth, President Carter called an emergency meeting with the Global Defense Council. The mood in the room was very different from the panic of weeks earlier. Captain Steve Martin stood on the bridge of the UES Liberty as his fleet approached the planet Kepler 442b. The world below was covered in purple forests and silver cities, home to a species called the Gentari. For 300 years, the Gentari had been slaves to the Zephyrian Empire, forced to build weapons for their alien masters. Steve was a career officer who had joined the military to protect people, and seeing an enslaved world made his blood boil. All ships prepare for orbital bombardment of military targets only. We're here to free these people, not hurt them. The Zephyrian garrison fleet tried to stop the human ships, but they were no match for battle-hardened human crews who had been fighting across the galaxy for months. Within hours, every Zephyrian warship was destroyed or fleeing toward deep space. As human marines landed on the planet's surface, they were met by crowds of Gentari civilians. The aliens looked like tall, thin humans with pale blue skin and large, silver eyes. Many of them were crying with joy. Elder philosopher Sitharan, the oldest and wisest of the Gentari, approached Steve as he stepped off his landing shuttle. The ancient alien moved slowly but with dignity, and when he spoke, his voice was filled with emotion. "Human captain, we have waited 3 centuries for someone to break our chains. How can we repay this kindness?" Steve helped the old alien to his feet. "You don't owe us anything. But if you want to help, we could use information about Zephyrian military positions." Sitharan nodded eagerly. "Of course. But first there is something you must understand about this war. The galaxy's species are not like your people. Most of us evolved from creatures that ate plants or scavenged for food. We learned to work together because cooperation helped us survive." Steve listened carefully as the alien continued. "But humans evolved differently. You came from hunters and predators. This is why you fight so strangely, why you never give up, why you get stronger. When facing danger, the galaxy has never seen anything like your species before." The conversation was interrupted when Steve's communication officer received an urgent message from Earth. President Carter's voice came through the speakers, clear and determined. "All human forces, this is your president. We've just received surrender offers from 43 different alien species. They want to end the war immediately. Admiral Jackson has new orders for all commands." Back on Earth, Admiral Pete Jackson was coordinating the largest military operation in human history. In his command center, holographic displays showed human fleets moving toward every major alien world in the galaxy. The time had come to end this war once and for all. "Admiral, the main battle fleet is ready to jump to Zephyria Prime," reported Captain Monica Baker, his chief of staff. Monica was a former intelligence officer who had helped plan many of the successful raids on alien targets. "Good. Lieutenant. Colonel Jennifer Torres, is the captured Zephyrian flagship ready to broadcast our message?" Jennifer nodded from her position at the communication station. She was a tough Marine who had led the boarding party that captured the alien command ship. "Yes, sir, we've cracked their communication codes. Every species in the galaxy will receive our transmission." Admiral Jackson took a deep breath. This message would either end the war or escalate it beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. "Begin transmission." Across thousands of star systems, alien leaders received the same message. President Carter's face appeared on their screens, but she was speaking from the bridge of a captured Zephyrian warship. The symbolism was clear. Humans could reach anywhere in the galaxy. "People of the galaxy," President Carter began, "this war started because your leaders believed humans were weak and primitive. You have learned otherwise. Your fleets are broken, your supply lines are cut, and your worlds live in fear of human raiders." The message continued as alien leaders watched in growing horror. Behind President Carter, human soldiers could be seen operating captured alien technology with ease. But this war was never about conquest. We never wanted to rule you or take your worlds. We simply wanted to live in peace. You can have that peace, but it will be on human terms. Meanwhile, the largest human fleet ever assembled was approaching Zephyria Prime, the golden homeworld of the species that had started this war. Admiral Jackson commanded over 200 human warships, including vessels captured from defeated alien fleets. The defense of Zephyria Prime was the largest military force in galactic history. Over 5,000 alien ships from dozens of different species had gathered to protect the Zephyrian homeworld. Their commanders were confident that such a massive force could stop any human attack. They were wrong. Admiral Jackson didn't attack the alien fleet directly. Instead, he used the same tactics that had won every human victory in this war. While the aliens waited in formation for a proper space battle, human ships scattered throughout the system and began attacking the planet's infrastructure. Captain Monica Baker led a strike force against the orbital shipyards where Zephyrian warships were built. Her ships emerged from faster-than-light travel inside the shipyard complex itself, firing nuclear missiles at point-blank range before the defenders could react. At the same time, human cyber warfare specialists led by Dr. Michelle Clark began their attack on the planet's computer networks. Within minutes, traffic control systems failed, power grids went offline, and communication networks crashed. Dr. Clark was a former computer programmer who had learned to wage electronic warfare against alien technology. "Admiral, we've taken control of their planetary defense systems. All orbital weapons platforms are offline. The alien fleet finally moved to attack the human ships, but it was too late. The humans had already achieved their objective. Zephyria Prime, the most heavily defended world in the galaxy, was helpless." Prime Minister Vexthul watched from his palace as human ships moved freely through his system. His golden skin had turned pale, and his glowing eyes were dim with defeat. "How is this possible?" he asked his military advisor. "We have 5,000 ships, they have only 200. Sir, the humans never fought our fleet. They simply made it irrelevant. Our ships cannot protect the planet if they cannot find targets to shoot at." Dr. Kevin Phillips, now serving as Earth's chief diplomat, arrived at Zephyria Prime aboard a human diplomatic vessel. The same man who had tried to prevent this war through peaceful negotiation was now here to end it. Kevin met with surviving alien leaders in a space station orbiting the planet. The station was called New Geneva, built by human engineers in just 2 weeks as a neutral meeting place. The sight that greeted Kevin was both satisfying and sad. Representatives from over 100 alien species sat in chairs designed for their different body types. All of them looked defeated and afraid. Prime Minister Vexthul spoke first, his voice barely above a whisper. "What are your terms for our surrender?" Kevin activated a holographic display showing a document that would become known as the Terra Accords. "These are not surrender terms. These are the rules for how the galaxy will work from now on. The aliens read the document in stunned silence. They had expected harsh punishment, slavery, or death. Instead, the humans were offering something unprecedented, a chance to rebuild galactic civilization based on actual cooperation instead of domination. Under the Terra Accords, all species will be equal members of a new galactic commonwealth. Kevin explained. Slavery is abolished. Aggressive war is forbidden. Disputes will be settled through negotiation, not violence. An alien that looked like a giant butterfly raised one delicate wing. And if some species refuse to accept these terms? Kevin's smile was cold but not cruel. Then they will deal with the Commonwealth Peacekeeping Force. All human military units are being reorganized into a galactic police force. We will enforce the peace we are offering you. The message was clear. The galaxy could choose cooperation under human protection or destruction under human wrath. Most species quickly chose cooperation. Over the following months, human colonies spread throughout the galaxy, but they came as protectors rather than conquerors. Human engineers helped rebuild damaged worlds. Human doctors treated alien diseases. Human teachers shared knowledge and technology. But everyone remembered what happened to species that chose violence over peace. The Corvin Empire, which refused to accept the Terra Accords, found their military fleet destroyed and their leaders exiled to a prison world. The Crystalline Collective, which tried to continue the war, discovered that human cyber warfare could turn their own crystal minds against each other. Ambassador Lisa Rodriguez, the same woman who had accidentally started this war, now worked to welcome new species into the galactic community. But the process was very different from the old council meetings. In the new meeting chamber on New Geneva, alien representatives sat in a circle with human peacekeepers standing guard. The humans were polite but firm, and everyone understood that the galaxy's new protectors were also its most dangerous predators. "Welcome to the Galactic Commonwealth," Lisa said to a newly discovered species of tree-like aliens. "We offer you friendship, protection, and trade. In return, we ask only that you live in peace with your neighbors." The tree aliens looked nervously at the human guards, then at the holographic displays showing human fleets patrolling every sector of the galaxy.